Hey, how's it going, guys? This is NatePick, and welcome to my tech world. So today I'm actually using a little bit different microphone. Normally I have my Shure SMB, but I'm gonna try my lavalier microphone for now. And so far, it seems to be doing okay. But today I wanted to talk about something that's very dear to me and something that I know that another fellow on the podcast also is dear to them as well. And that's simply, well, books. So you might be asking yourself, Nate, what is the big deal about books? Why are you going to make a video of this? And there's actually a couple of reasons why, and I feel like this is something that is starting to be lost, especially by a lot of the younger people, is they're not reading like the older generation used to. It's one thing to read. It's a whole nother ball game to scroll through a bunch of 15-second videos or 30-second videos or 1-minute videos and then claim that you know something. That's You're not going to know anything. You're basically what's creating what's called brain rot. And with brain rot, if you're not careful, you'll allow yourself to get into a place to where you're wanting to just be entertained, but you're not actually learning anything. And that is a problem. So I wanted to bring a couple of reasons why I like to collect books, the reason why I like to read books, and the reason why that it actually will help you in the long run. So, as you can see on the table here, I have several different books, and I'm using them as an example as of, what you could read. I have a habit of collecting tech books, a lot of tech books. I have this Windows 341 for Dummy, but as you can see here, this is a current book. I have a bookmark. This is a current book that I started reading, and I'm kind of in the history part of Linux right now, which is very fascinating to me. So I've already kind of skipped ahead and looked at some of the other stuff, and I'm afraid a lot of this stuff I'm probably going to know out of this book, but hey, it's something to read. So I started this one, but I have this Windows 3.1 for Dummies. I always loved collecting these type of dummies books to begin with, and part of that's probably from Sanford the Son. You know, you big dummy. Anyways, so I also like to collect books that are based off of some sort of history. So basically, sometimes it might be a little bit far stretched history, was considered fantasy, but at the same time, it's pretty. There's some history behind it for that particular reason, and so the the Night in History. This was a really good book, and teaches you quite a bit about knights and exactly what they've done. One of the good books I really recommend to read is The Hatchet. If you're wanting to just kind of have a good story, it's clean. It gets into some, you know, I guess you could say some different aspects of what are you willing to go to survive. And so it's a really good book. Then of course I've got quite a few other books. This world book is pretty cool. It's by IBM, as you can see down here, and basically just kind of does different stuff, time frames, whatever. It's just a user guide to the world book. Now, what this is this book actually belongs to a software that I have that's in a big box. So that software, this is kind of a guide to teach you about that software. But what's cool about it is that software gives you like time frames and all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty cool. I always collect these. I never know when I run across a piece of software that I might, want to add the book to it. So next thing, as you can see, I actually didn't get this for $1. I actually got it half off, so I got it for 50 cents. But I thought that was really cool. Just teach your kids to code. So it's a coding book about Python, and it's kind of aimed towards kids, which sometimes I feel like I need to go back and just read this myself because it's Python, man. Sometimes just, okay, sure. Yeah, it's a cool book, and it's like one of the books that I bought, and it's one of my tons of book. I can't show you. I don't even have a picture because I have nowhere to stick all of them to show you how many tech books I have. And it's not just coding, but it's, IT in general. I have networking books, I have security books, I have, hardware books. I have all kinds of stuff, but it's a really cool book. And going to the next one, beginning Linux programming, this I read all the way through, and it was a very, very interesting book to me. And it tells you all kinds of stuff, your terminal output, the terminal, the cursor, all that kind of stuff. And then this one is something that I am planning on reading in the future. I haven't read this book yet, but it's maximum security, and there actually has a city in the back of this book, which is pretty cool. So I'm interested in checking it out to see exactly, what their what some of their philosophy is, and I do need to clean it up. So here is why I think books are important in general. For the longest time of history, books were really the only way to retain knowledge. I mean, we're talking thousands of years here where they wrote things down as it happened. Now, keep in mind, a lot of times you had to see exactly, okay, did this actually happen? Could you find another account? History is one of those that you're constantly having to cross-reference to make sure all the references match. So that is something that you have to keep in mind when you're reading a book, especially about history. But at the same time, that was how recorded history came to be, was through books, as people actually writing it down. And over time, we perfected the paper, which we still have now. Now it's kind of moving on to the digital landscape where people are reading it on tablets or reading it on their phones. But in the same sense, it's still a book. And so I'm going to give you 3 reasons why that I think it's really cool to read a book, why it's really important that you should read a book, and why that it is something that can help you in the future, even with Linux in general, even with programming in general. It's something that is important. So let's talk about number 1, which is expand your knowledge. When you read books, you're expanding your knowledge. It's almost like an investment of what you're doing, because you are broadening your outlook, you're broadening your knowledge to where you are no longer limited into this little circle. Now your circle has gotten bigger. And basically, especially if you're studying subjects like history, the science, or some kind of, trade school, regardless if, even if you're just plumbing, or if you're an electrician, or you're an IT, or like just any of that kind of stuff, you're allowing your knowledge to grow. And that is always a good thing. It's not a bad thing for you to allow your knowledge to expand. And, if you don't like reading a book all the time, that's fine. Maybe just start out with just 15 minutes a day on a book, get you a bookmark. Once you hit your 15 minutes and you're like, I'm done with this, put the bookmarker in there, shut the book, walk away, do whatever you want. But I guarantee you that if you keep doing that over and over again, you'll begin to realize that you pick up a book and you start reading it. And then after 15 minutes has passed, like, I really kind of want to finish this chapter out. So that's happened to me more than once. I used to not like to read at all because I have dyslexia, and I've had to train myself on how to read. So keep in mind, it didn't come natural to me like some other people. Now I can read really fast now, but I had to train myself at it. I had to work at it. So number 2, as far as why I think reading is very important, is because reading actually helps to develop critical thinking. So when you begin to read and begin to apply some of the things that you read to your life, then you will actually be exposed to, certain problems, why the problem was handled a certain way, what was a better approach to it, what was more correct to it, why did this person actually do this without actually, taking the time to say, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't do that, maybe I should try it this way because this would have been a better solution. It actually forces you to think about exactly what is happening in the moment. So that's the reason why I say, read. For example, this book right here. It's a survival book, basically, is what it is, and it kind of gives a history, fictional, but a history of a man that is trying to survive with this book. And once again, now back in the day, it says 450. I didn't pay 450. I actually paid $2 for this. And you could tell it's a very old book because I used to read this quite a bit. But this book was basically about somebody that was in a plane crash and pilot died, and this person had to figure out how to survive in the wilderness. And if once you read that, then you kind of, if something were like that were to happen to you, then maybe you can go back to this book. Even though it's slightly fictional, there's quite a bit of good like survival skills that's in it, that you can be like, okay, well actually I need to do this. Okay, the first thing that you should always do is check your surroundings and check the big threes. Your big threes is, do I have water? Do I have something to eat? And do I have a shelter? Now I'm going to lump in the shelter with fire. So you also, part of the shelter is you have to be able to make fire. And if you can't do those things, well, then you're in a bad spot. So that may readjust. Okay, well, I've got to figure out something else now. I got to figure out what I'm going to do. I got to assess my situation. Let me not rush into anything, but I'm going to stop and just look around and see exactly what I have to work with. That is something that the book actually taught me. And so now, as someone who does go hunt, as someone that does fish, that does go camping, I have to apply those skills because the book made me aware of my situation that I'm in and say, okay, what can I survive with? So, number three, the third thing is the reason why I think that you should read is because reading actually promotes mental calm and focus. And one of the things about a lot of people nowadays is they always say, well, I have a hard time focusing. But they also refuse to read at all. They don't even try. Okay, well, because you're not reading, you're not teaching yourself the skill on how to focus. And so it actually helps to promote that. It helps for you. And they've done tons of studies on this, as of, people that read and people that don't. Once again, if you're just scrolling through videos all the time, you do develop what's called brain rot, where you're literally just mindlessly scrolling, and all you're getting is just entertainment, and you're not actually being productive. You're not getting any creativity ideas. You're not getting any literature in your mind. You're not getting any kind of things that would actually help you to be better at what you do. Now, I pulled this blurb from the website, and I'm going to kind of read it as the way that they wrote it. And so basically, scientific research supports this experience, that studies have shown that reading can significantly reduce stress levels by lowering the heart rate and decreasing the muscle tension, often within minutes. Reading also engages the levels by lowering the heart rate and decreasing. Reading also engages the brain's attention networks, promoting sustained focus and reducing overload of your brain. Unlike passive forms of media, reading requires active mental participation, which helps quiet intrusive thoughts and encourages a state of mental immersion. So that within itself tells you that, hey, reading is actually a very good thing, because you are training your brain how to be more attentive. You're training your brain how to calm yourself, how to reduce some stress, and how to basically cut everything else out, and then say, okay, I'm going to focus on this for a minute. And so there are many books that help people to do certain things that they want to do. For one, if you want to get better at Linux, obviously there is online sources that you can read, as far as ebooks that you can get. So books actually help many people to be able to learn what they want to learn in their particular field. And once you have a hold of that, you'd be surprised how many of these books that people just, they took the course and then they throw it away. I've literally found these for 25 cents a piece in a Salvation Army. Like, it's crazy to me. And these are tech books that can still help people. And when they have a problem, if they would remember, just go back and keep these and actually be like, okay, actually there was these problems that I'm having now. Let me go look back in the book, and they'd probably find an answer to it if they spent the time on actually learning it. But once again, they have to be willing to learn it. So this was just a little bit of a way to explain why I think it's important for you to read a book, why that it will help you in the long run, why it will help to develop your brain. And of course, some people find very much comfort in books. And if there was one book that I would say that I read all the time, that I study all the time, and that actually gives me comfort, well, obviously, it's this. If you don't know what that is, it's the Bible. As a Christian, that book gives me comfort. I read it every day. It helps me, and then I buy stuff like this that kind of gives you little verses to tell you that, hey, God promised you this and all that kind of stuff, and just good encouraging words. So it may not be your thing. I understand. You may not be a Christian, but I'm sure there's another book out there that would give you comfort and that would help you. As a Christian, I would say, if you want real comfort, to me, this, having this is the only thing that really comforted me. So, but other than that, that's all I have for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Once again, I just kind of wanted to give you some reasons why. It's just a trend I've noticed that a lot of people just don't try anymore. And they're going into this brain rot and they're allowing AI just to take over. And, oh, well, let me ask AI real quick. Well, stop. How about you go back, grab a book, and go look it up and take the time to read up until that point and say, okay, I actually learned a skill and I don't have to rely on AI all the time. Do I use AI? Yeah, I do. Especially sometimes when I type something out, sometimes I'll say, hey, can you make this sound a little bit more professional? Because I know it's not as good as it could be. And a lot of times it will spit back something and I'm like, okay, that does work. Do I use it as far as trying to look up stuff all the time? No, absolutely not. As a matter of fact, I'd much rather go grab a book or find something online, read the manual. Doesn't matter. I'm going to read about it because that helps me to grow. I learn, I can focus on it, and it takes my ability to be able to do my job and for me to be able to focus on my job without taking away the fact that, oh, well, I could just Google it or AI it, but I'd rather not. I'd rather take the time to actually learn. So until then, I hope you guys enjoy the video. Subscribe if you liked it. Leave a like, or you can leave a dislike. It's up to you. I'm not going to judge you. And if you want to see any more future contents, please let me know. Also, if you have any content that you might be interested in, of some of the scope of the things that I do, a lot of stuff is hardware related, just leave it in the descriptions below. And I will leave you with this. I want you to leave me about 5 books in total that you read that you really enjoyed in the comments. Until then, God bless. Peace.